Welcome. Welcome back, Mosaic Souls, to this live, which is all about honoring your natural rest cycles and implementing self-care for rejuvenation. So I really wanted to talk about this topic as we are slowly moving into the fall season. I'm located here in Georgia, and I've definitely been noticing the seasons changing, the wind blowing more rapidly and the temperatures dropping during the nighttime. So definitely wanted to tap into this topic. If you're joining me live, feel free to say hi in the chat. I'm going to check and make sure that I'm being seen and heard. Okay, cool. So I briefly want to just talk about, if you're joining me for the first time, welcome to Divine Earth School, the place where spiritual seekers and creative entities, beings, come to explore, express, and embody their divinity, where I talk all things health, wellness, life, business, spirituality, and creativity. So let's dive in. So I really wanted to share a little bit about why this topic was coming up for me, because this past week was super me honoring my rest cycles, which is why I wasn't on here last Sunday. But I did for those of you who don't know, I did a huge event in where I'm located, and it was really cool. It was really everything that I dreamed of and more. And it was a successful event and all that good stuff, but it took a lot of energy out of me. And so I knew that afterward, I even mentally prepared that I was going to give myself a week, if not more, rest, And so I wanted to really talk about this because I know that some of us, especially in our society where it's all about that hustle hard culture, I think more people are starting to embrace this, which is living the soft life or living the simple life, which I really, really love and appreciate. But one of the things that I notice is that people, especially here in America, for some reason, we are not ones to promote self-love, self-care, and rest, because of this sort of, we're treated like sort of another number or a robot, and so we don't honor our natural human rest cycles, and I think it's very important for us, and even in other cultures, not just America, but basically westernized cultures where it's all about that like go 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 energy. I think it's very important to honor and listen to your body and listen to your soul and your spirit before you reach burnout, because so many of us reach burnout or feel disconnected from our natural rest cycles, that not only are we feeling tired and drained all the time, but we manifest illnesses, we manifest diseases and all kinds of stuff, and then we manifest mood swings and mood changes. It alters, not getting enough sleep and stuff alters your body's chemistry, which also tampers with your hormonal balance. So I think this is a very important topic to talk about, and it's really essential to your well-being and sense of creativity and your ability to show up for yourself, show up for others, show up for your job or career, and show up for your loved ones, right? To honor that rest cycle. So let's talk about understanding natural rest cycles first, right? And really, it's really important to understand this, and it's really reflected to us in nature. I always like to go back to the earth, because the earth is a really great teacher and a really great just sort of like guru to us when you just go out in nature and just recognize the natural cycles. And when you just even think about seasons, right? Each season has its own energy to it, right? So as we're moving into this fall season, this autumn seasons, like you'll start to see things slow down in nature, things start to wither away. And even though this is the harvest time, harvest to me isn't hard work. Yeah, you're reaping the fruits of your labor, but the effort and the energy was really in spring and summer, right? That was when you're cultivating the roots and putting down, planting the seeds and watering the plants and stuff like that. Whereas harvest time is where you're just collecting, right? Like it's sort of the 9 of Pentacles for those of you who are tarot readers or tarot aware of the tarot. It's that sort of energy of, reaping what you sow, right? And it's not one where you are efforting. It's also, it reminds me of the Empress card as well. So the Empress and the 9 of Pentacles, right? Which is that energy of just, taking in the bounty of your labor, right? And so that's sort of the energy that we're moving into right now, the fall energy. But also you want to think about the winter, which is, fall is sort of that beginning of slowing down, and winter is really just that time of rest, right? In nature, you see that reflected where, you see icicles everywhere. The trees have, released all their leaves, waiting for spring to bud again. And so it's just in this sort of hibernation period, and nature really reflects this. Another way that nature reflects this is with women in our moon cycles. Usually during menstruation is a time where you're resting, right? The week leading up to menstruation, you're slowing down. It's sort of like that week leading up to menstruation is sort of your fall, your autumn season each month. And the week of your menstruation is your winter season, right? It's the time where you're, peeling back, becoming more mindful, being more restful, not taking on as much, right? But in our society where we don't really honor our bodies signals, as well as the moon cycle and all that stuff, we have a tendency to ignore these. So I want to invite you to just start being mindful of this in your own life, and start incorporating more rest within your life, right? For my women who do deal with the moon cycle, so just understand that the week before your period, you're going to start feeling a little bit tired. So you'll feel this sort of natural pull to slow down, right? And that's perfectly fine. And then the week of your menstruation, you're going to start feeling just not ability to want to really do anything. And then that week right after your menstruation, you'll sort of feel this energy kind of tap back into online. And so that's usually the week that you get that new resurgence of energy. Your estrogen comes in online and stuff, and so you feel more energetic. And then the week after your period, ovulation basically is the time where you really want to start planning things, and that go-getter energy, that masculine energy is like online for you, right? For my females, right? For my women with womb, for the people with wombs, right? Who have menstruation cycles. So just honoring these cycles in our lives, not just with the seasons, of course with the seasons, but also as a woman within your own cycle, right? And even when we, not to be like super superstitious or anything like that, but even if you can plan things according to your cycle, right? And just being more mindful of when you have big projects. Like, know that if you have a big project and it's going to be the week before your period or the week of your period, you might not have as much energy. So give yourself time and grace and energy to take more rest times, to take naps, to just, go outside and sit for 5 to 10 minutes and just relax, give yourself that time to, grab your cup of tea, and, light your candle and just sit and be for a few moments, right? And so just recognizing these natural cycles in nature and how that's reflected back to us with the earth will help you teach yourself to honor your body's natural rest cycles, right? So if this is resonating, definitely give this a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below if this is resonating. So one of the things that I wanted to also put forth and for you to understand is just, we as humans, we need rest and relaxation. We need rejuvenation. We need periods of rest and activity, right? To achieve more balance in our health, in our mental state of being, in our well-being, and how we show up, right? And so when we pretend or we forget that we are natural beings that have a natural, ebb and flow cycle, when you think of that yin and yang energy, when you think of everything sort of reflected in nature. Let me make sure you can hear me. So I totally forgot to bring my microphone closer. When you forget that we have these natural ebbs and flows, we will tend to drive ourselves insane because we are doing way too much, or we're trying to effort our way to success rather than just letting the natural cycles show up, right? The second part I wanted to talk about is just honoring your personal rest cycles, right? So how do you tune into your rest cycle, right? How do you know when you're tired? You know when you're tired because most of us are walking around burnt out, tired. You feel that sleepy or groggy feeling. Maybe you struggle with brain fog, or your body is showing up in like aches and pains or other things that the body gives signals for when you need rest, and usually it's that tired, groggy, mental fog issue. And the thing is, you want to check in with yourself daily, right? Are you getting enough sleep? Sleep is super important. That was one of the things that I struggled with actually the week before my event. I was actually struggling with insomnia, and I couldn't, for some reason, it wasn't even anxiety as much, because I know what anxiety felt like, but it was just insomnia. Like, it was anticipation, excitement, anticipation. And because I was having that going on, I was like, my mind was racing. And so it's really important. That's how I knew I was going to definitely need at least a week or more to catch up with sleep, to catch up with resting, right? So listening to your body, if you need more sleep, can you take an extra hour to sleep in, or to take a day off and give yourself that time to just rest and do nothing for a whole day, and give yourself permission to do that, right? And listening to your body, right? It's important to be aware of your body and its signals, right? And because it indicates and it shows you when you need rest, and when you ignore it, that's when you manifest disease, that's when you manifest illnesses, that's when you manifest sicknesses. Like, even with me, like, something that I was noticing, which I'm always on top of, is just my health. I take care of myself to the best of my ability, but like, I was noticing like this sort of itchy feeling in the back of my throat, or like my body was like, that feeling where you feel like your body is fighting off something. And I knew, okay, well, I definitely need to sleep in more. Let me take some more, like, eat some more, high water content fruit, but just fruit with vitamin C's and all, making sure I'm getting my fruits and vegetables, because I know that my body is going to need more, because I'm using more of my body, my physical energy, and my mental energy. So I know I'm going to need more so that my body can rest and rejuvenate. And also, I'm going to just need more rest so that my body can replenish itself, to rebuild the cells while I'm sleeping. Your gut and all that other aspects of your body also need sleep. That's during the sleep time is when you actually replenish your cells and cellular regeneration and all that stuff, right? So when we don't do that, we don't give the body a chance to regenerate cells, and the immune system weakens, and then we manifest illnesses and diseases, right? And so, scheduling regular breaks. When you do have lunchtime, if you get an hour of lunch, which I know a lot of like white collar workers do. Like, when I had a full-time job, we would get a whole hour for lunch. And so can you take 20 minutes? I remember being tired a few times when I did have a full-time job. I would go and sleep in my car for like 30 minutes. And because I brought my lunch, I would eat the rest of my lunch at my desk or something when I got back in, because I had a desk job, and so I could eat while I was doing my work, and it really didn't matter. So I usually actually use my lunch break for sleeping, for a nap, and then I would go back and finish so can you take 15-minute power nap or something, right? That's just scheduling regular breaks, creating a rest friendly environment, right? So when you're sleeping at night, do you have cell phones or any blue lights around you, making sure that it's completely dark, and that if you have noisy neighbors, can you invest in sort of just having your phone? Like, one of the things I do, because I sometimes have noisy neighbors, is utilize those sleep sounds, like of just the ocean breeze or storms or something like that. I'll just turn that on, and that'll be sort of my white noise in the background, just to make sure that I have consistent sounds, because I wake up easily at night. I'm not one of those sound sleepers. I envy people who can sleep soundly, who a bomb could go off and, they're completely dead asleep. I've never been able to be that. Like, you just bump a little thing in the night or open the door or something, and I wake up easily. So I've had to adjust my environment to make sure that, if it's too warm, I'm having my fan blowing, making sure I feel, the temperature is right for me to sleep, that it's dark, completely dark, that I've removed my phones away from me, and getting away from that energy vibrating towards me, and also that I'm having sounds that is just giving me that constant, energy or white noise that I need to just kind of sleep throughout the night and not be interrupted. So those are just some tips that you can utilize yourself. Earplugs is another thing for those of you who have, noisy children or neighbors or things of that nature. That's a good investment as well. And just setting boundaries as well, right? Like learning to say no. For those of my people pleasers, ex people pleasers or recovering people pleasers, learning to say no to invitations, learning to say no to, request, whether that's your boss asking you to take on more work, or whether your girlfriend wants you to hang out and you just are completely exhausted, and you just don't really feel up to it, or whether your spouse is asking you to do more and you just don't have that extra energy to take on more on your plate. Learning to say no or ask for help when needed, right? You are not Superwoman, you're not Superman, you're still a human, and we each have, I like to think of it like as a bank, right? And I know a lot of people are like very, like, when I think about health, I think about it in terms of sort of like an investment in your future self. Like a lot of us focus in on money and getting more money and going after it, but we don't think about investing in our health, right? And so every time you take care of yourself, you sleep, you move your body, you eat fruits and vegetables, you take care of your mental and emotional health. That is an investment. That's almost like you putting an extra, $10,000 each week into your health bank account, right? And so that as you age and you get older, you realize that you're just rich with energy and rich with vibrancy and health and well-being. But if you don't put those deposits in while you're younger, or even no matter what age you are, then you're always going to be running on an empty cup, always going to be depleted or going to be on a negative balance, right? So you have an energy set point as well. And so you have to make those investments by creating these rituals and habits so that you are vibrant and alive, throughout your life, right? So let's talk about just some self-care essentials, right? And self-care to me is really just honoring your needs, and it's not really just pampering, like going and get your nails done or your hair done or your eyebrows waxed or, your bikini waxed for my females, or your hair lined up for my men. Self-care is honoring your body's need for rest, for rejuvenation, your emotional need for love, self-care, and recognition, honoring attention and awareness, right? That's what self-care for me is, right? So it's really important to align your self-care with your natural rest cycles, right? So some daily practices that you can do are deep breathing, right? A lot of us don't breathe correctly because we have shallow breaths. As a singer, like I've learned how to breathe properly ever since I was like 10 years old. And one of the things you want to do is learn how to breathe diaphragmatically. So when you're breathing, this lower part of your stomach should be expanding. You shouldn't be, a lot of times people have this shallow breath where they breathe in and then like their chest collapse. If your chest is collapsing or your stomach is going in, then you're breathing improperly. So a lot of times we need to learn to breathe deeply, and because that actually enhances our ability to not only metabolize and properly detox our bodies from different toxins and stuff, but it helps our body to actually circulate. If you think about just circulation, air circulation fuels the rest of your body. Like if you can't be underwater, if you can't hold your breath for more than 2-3 minutes, a normal human being can't really hold it for more than a minute, right? Without passing out, right? So getting in the proper amount of air is super crucial for your body. So learning to breathe properly, deep breathing, really helps to calm your nervous system, put you into the parasympathetic nervous system versus being in that sort of super hyper, like fight, flight, or freeze mode, right? Another thing that you can do is stretching, right? I love to stretch. Stretching is my go-to. Like when I don't feel like exercising, yoga and stretching are my go-to. Like just simply bending over and doing the inverted V or downward facing dog for those of you who are used to yogic terms, right? Doing that downward facing dog every single day reaching down to touch your toes, making sure that the back of your hamstrings are getting that extra stretch, right? Leaning over to the right and going over to the left and going this way and doing this way. Like just stretching daily and moving your body helps to release that tension, release that that tension that gets pent up. We have to move our bodies, right? And sometimes especially when you're tired, I definitely invite you to do more gentle yoga, gentle stretching. You don't want to like go in hard because you don't have that extra energy to do that. So just gentle stretching helps you to feel better in your body, especially if I haven't moved. Like being able to move and just do gentle stretches before bed, like it feels so much better and I can sleep that much more soundly, right? So making sure you're stretching every single day, and then just inviting moments of stillness. Welcome back, Sati. Welcome back. So so just having those moments of stillness, in your meditation, when you're quieting your mind and you're just doing some deep breathing, focusing in on your breath, giving your mind a chance to rest and recuperate, giving your body a chance to just be without, and just becoming aware of your body. So many of us are disconnected from our bodies. We're not even aware of what's going on, the energy that animates our bodies. We're not even aware of our bodies' cries and call out for helps, right? Because we're so not connected to ourselves. And I'll get to your comments in a second. So those are just three simple things that you can implement. Deep breathing, learn to breathe diaphragmatically when you're breathing in. Make sure your diaphragm is expanding. That means that your lungs is expanding, which is pushing down your diaphragm, which causes your belly to bulge. And that's a true deep breath, right? And then stretching daily, as well as taking in moments of stillness, right? And then weekly rest days, right? What are your rest days? Like today's Sunday. Sundays are usually the days that I ain't doing nothing, right? Other than this, Sundays and Mondays actually are usually my rest days. Saturdays I'm usually doing stuff, but Sundays and Mondays are usually the days that I'm not doing anything. I usually take off Monday and Sundays. So whatever your schedule is, make sure that you're implementing rest days, right? Giving yourself a half day off, where no work or major obligations are scheduled, making sure that is implemented, right? And then just seasonal check-ins. So reflecting on how each season can inspire different forms of self-care, right? Warm and bubbly baths into winter, right? Doing your spiritual baths into winter, or, light movement in the spring, or more like active movement in the spring, or fall, sort of gentle or yin yoga, or you can even do vinyasa yoga, but vinyasa is definitely going to be more power, like masculine energy. So I definitely would say doing more yin, or just like simple yoga that doesn't cause you to, overexert yourself, right? Especially if you're burnt out. This is definitely advice for if you're burnt out. Do gentle yoga, right? Versus that hardcore, yoga. So just doing seasonal check-ins and making sure that you're just honoring yourself and the natural cycles of each season, right? We're not technically bears, so we don't like go into a cave and hibernate for like 3 to 6 months, but we still have that energy and that impetus to sort of rest and pull back from the world, pull back from society, pull back from doing things that we normally do. And I want to invite you to encourage yourself to honor that energy within you, and that it's okay. You don't need to be on all the time. Like nature has its cycles and seasons for a reason, and you are a natural being. Even though we built our world to be very unnatural, we actually are still nature beings. We are still part of the earth, right? And so honoring that earth cycle within your own life helps you to be more balanced and in vibrant health. So let me just go to your comments real quick. Self-care down, fantastic boundaries so I don't get taken advantage of. Yeah, exactly. Me too, I agree. But at what point does the isolation break? I took positivity in the work, but I can't form a genuine relationship. My life and my mind for others, ideas and potential, but I can never seem to action, success, joy for myself. Thank you for your time as always. Let me see. Okay, cool. I'm going to get to your question after this. Let me just finish this next section and I'm going to dive into your question. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I will definitely answer you in a second, Stacey. But that was a really great question and I'm so glad that you have healthy boundaries. I do too. And I definitely want to answer your question because that's a really juicy question. Okay, but let me finish this. So aligning to your moon cycle, another thing, like I mentioned, So tailoring your self-care practices according to the phases of your menstrual cycle, rest during menstruation, planning creative work and like exertion work during ovulation, right? That's when you usually have more energy. And let's talk about lastly, just creating a sustainable self-care plan, which is integrate, don't overhaul. So I like, as a health coach, or just as a coach in general, I'm all about those small changes. Like a lot of times, sometimes it works, but it's very rare that someone can just like completely overhaul their life and those changes stick, right? Usually we need to change one habit at a time, because the overhaul of your life, unless it's just like you dire need to change everything because everything in your life just sucks, which is usually not the case for most of us. But taking the small little breadcrumbs really helps you to make lasting changes versus drastic changes that don't end up lasting, right? So integrating small consistent actions into your daily life is what makes the difference, right? If you notice that during the morning you don't even have a routine, maybe starting to implement a routine this month as we move into the fall equinox will be your new goal. Maybe your new goal is, okay, well, I know that I have to be at work by 8 a.m. and so I get up at 6 a.m. Maybe I can take, from 6 a.m. to 6:15 some self-care time for me, right? Like, let the kids know that don't bother me between 6 to 6:15 a.m. Mommy's needs to breathe, right? Unless you have a little one who is, breastfeeding or something like that. But other than that, right? Can you take some time to just breathe and just be mindful for like 5 to 10 minutes, right? And just giving yourself also that time to self-check in and see where you are mentally, emotionally, and physically, right? Because if you don't sort of become aware, sort of like not checking your bank balance, right? Going back to that investment analogy, you're not going to know how much you're saving or how much you have to spend energy wise if you're not checking in with yourself, right? Doing that self-reflection. So checking in with yourself for 5 to 10 minutes in the morning before you start your day is very, very helpful to help you manage your energy and also set up boundaries moving forward, and to be able to know when to say yes and no to certain things, because you know where you're at on an energetic level. I keep thinking financial, like when I'm thinking of a bank account, right? You know where you're at in your energetic bank account, right? So, and then just having accountability, if you have a spouse or a partner or a friend, or a community that can help you implement this, especially if this is something that you struggle with. If you struggle with guilt, which I know a lot of Americans and, East Asia, like Japanese and like people who have those like hardcore culture, like go energy, like we struggle with guilt around taking rest days. Like I notice in certain other cultures, they don't have that struggle at all. Like rest and recuperation, siestas and things are built into the culture, but in America we don't have that, right? And so you have to build it into your own lifestyle because it's necessary, right? Like this whole super woman or superman thing where you have to bulldoze and do everything by yourself is total bullshit. And we were not built in silos, we were built in community. And so recognizing that it takes a village not only to raise a kid, but a village to bring a dream to life, a village to, live happily. Like when you look at the centurions around the world, the people who live to be over 100, usually it's because they are connected to some level of community, because they are tapped into some level of healthy communication and connection with others, right? So if you can have that in whatever capacity that could be 1 to 2 other people, right? Your community could be at like 2 to 3 friends, or shoot your spouse or whatever, it doesn't have to be huge. A lot of us, some of us come here for like to be a part of huge families, right? I came from a huge family, but like in your personal life, you might only really need to connect to 2 or 3, 1 to 2 people, right? So whatever your community is, make sure that you can tap into that. And so I also want to just encourage you, if this is something that you need more help with, then check out the link in the description box below to grab my self-love checklist, right? And this is all about helping you to identify and implement simple self-care practices that honor your natural rest cycles, right? So check out that at divineearthschool.com/self-love checklist, I think is the link. Let me make sure that is the link. And I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions. Let me see. Paste. So grab your checklist if that resonates for you. So I would also love for those of you who are watching the replay to feel free to share any one or two of your self-care practices that you've noticed in your own life that have made the difference. Share, let's converse and talk in the comments below so that we can help each other out in this area and encourage each other to honor our natural rest cycles. Feel free to share yours in the comments below. And I want to thank you for tuning in. So let's dive into some of these questions. Okay. The question that I got was, I don't really like doing for others' ideas and potentials, but I can never seem to get that love, affection, success, or do it for myself. Okay. I'm so positive doing the work, but I can't form a genuine relationship. You know, I find that to be so interesting, Sati, because that was definitely something that I've been working on in my own life. Actually, it's so funny how we attract mirror like energy, but I think a lot of that has to do with isolation. But what point does the isolation break? Right? Yeah, and I think also with the thing that happened in 2020, right? It caused a lot of us to shut down our connection with those in the outside world and not be able to build that genuine relationship. But I think just starting with where you are now, right? Like in general, I'm gonna tune into my divine team on this one for a second, but give me a second because they're already speaking to me. They're like, yeah, just tell it this. Yeah, it's funny that you say that. Yeah, I think if you can start, I'm going to answer from my human perspective and then go to my divine team on that. But I think if you can start with where you are, you know, if you have a parent or one friend or, you know, a spouse or partner or just even just that one person at work who is encouraging, start with where you are and just become grateful for the encouragement or the love and care and feedback that you receive, even if it's just from one person, right? Because I know I felt that way. I was literally just talking to my mom recently about that, like how I used to struggle with that issue, like in high school and just growing up, being able to make friends and deep connections with other human beings. And I think a lot of it has to do with the stories that we tell ourselves. But I think it's also just feeling, one, being less judgmental, right? Because no one's perfect. But two, being grateful for the love and the joy and the attention and care that you do receive, even if it's really small, right? Like, you know, my coworker really encouraged me that other day and, you know, for doing a really great job, and I really appreciate their recognition. Or my boss really, you know, encouraged me and like, you know, congratulated me for the hard work that I did on this XYZ, right? Or whatever. Like there's usually one light or some form of it in small seeds that we receive from other people, but because we don't have the person in our life, like the lover or the best friend or this or whatever, we have a tendency to say, well, I'm all alone, no one loves me, no one cares about me, and so we go into this sort of like cycle. And I think the biggest thing is just recognizing the love and the appreciation and gratitude, and like you said, and the affection and success and joy that you have for others, and recognizing that you do have it within, and start from within, right? I feel like that's sort of what my divine team was sharing, is that when you start to feel so loved and so whole and so cared for and affectionate towards yourself, right? The same love and affection and love that you're giving to other people, the same appreciation, the same gratitude, the same energy that you're pouring into others, can you pour it into yourself, right? And starting from there, and when you're coming from that place, that sense of wholeness, because you are already whole, you'll recognize that you start attracting other people reflecting that energy back to you, right? And it really starts with self. I remember well, this one guy that I used to date, but we weren't dating at the time. But we had reconnected or whatever, and we were hanging out or whatever, and it was this moment of he was really trying to get my attention or whatever. And I wasn't really feeling him because I was just so in love with my life, so in love with myself. I didn't really need that external validation or his like energy. And I was just saying, he was like, I can just tell that you're not really feeling me, are you? I was like, not really. And it's not that you're not a good person. It's just, I just feel so whole and complete by myself that, you telling me that I'm beautiful or you telling me I'm this and that just is falling on deaf ears, because I already know that I'm beautiful. I already know that I'm, goddess incarnate. Like, I already know these things. Like, this is such a knowing within me that I started attracting people outwardly telling me that, outwardly reflecting that energy back to me. You know what I mean? And so I feel like when you come from wholeness, it's sort of like the same principle with like healing yourself, or same principle of abundance. When you come from a place of abundance, you attract more abundance. When you come from a place of just deep self-love and care and appreciation and like just gratitude for where you are in your journey, letting go of self-loathing or self-berating or any of that might be going on. Like, let's say you're 45 and you're like, well, I haven't achieved the things that I set out to achieve, or I haven't found the lover, or, I reached the success in my career, or I didn't reach the success in my career, so I'm a loser. And letting go of whatever programming that you got going on that is not in alignment with showing yourself the most love and care that you can, right? Is not in alignment with you attracting people to self-reflect that back to you, right? So when you feel so in love with life, when you feel like, oh my God, I am just the bee's knees. I love me so much. I'm so awesome. I don't even need other people to fucking tell me that I'm amazing. When you start feeling that wholeness within you, it's going to reflect it back to you, and you'll start to attract more human beings who reflect that back to you. And this, here's another caveat I wanted to share, is that we have a tendency to attract what we need to learn from the most, right? Like when we are attracting people who don't value us, or people who, shit on our ideas, or people who are, not loving or kind or giving you affection or whatever, is usually because there's some part of you that this really kind of goes back to that shadow work series, is some part of you that you haven't looked at, that you need to give yourself love, right? Your inner little girl, your inner little boy, your inner little they, whatever you want to call yourself, needs that self-love, right? And I take myself on dates and speak kindly to myself. It's hard that others seem to play games with me when I'm so patient and understanding. All I ask for is communication. Trust me, I totally understand that. Which is so funny, because I do want to do a whole series on like healthy communication, because a lot of people suck at communication. But I totally feel you, right? I feel you on that one. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's just patience, honestly. And I don't even want to say patience, honestly. I just feel like I love that you're taking yourself out on dates. I love that you speak kindly to yourself. I love that, you seem to have a good relationship with yourself. I feel like if I were to give advice to myself, or if I were to give advice to you or anybody else going through the same issue, I would just say patience and love, and know that your tribe of people, the people that you're looking for, is already on its way. And when that's a knowing within you, you're going to attract it that much more quicker. But when you are focused on the people who screw you over, or the people who are shady, or the people who play games, it's okay to vent. Like, I fully support you venting and having that space to do that. Like, because I totally feel you, right? Like, I've totally been where you are. Totally like, why can't a motherfucker communicate properly? What is wrong with people? I totally understand where you're coming from. So I understand that. And it's perfectly fine to vent. But I would say, this is the advice that I'm giving myself as well as you, is move into that energy of, I already have my tribe of friends, or my tribe of whatever you're looking for. If it's a spouse or a partner or a new friend or whatever, I want to invite you to move in. What would it feel like? And start imagining, you hanging out with your friends, and the type of conversations that you would have, and the type of reciprocity that you receive, right? I know that I do that in my own life with like my one or two friends, right? and like with my mom, she's sort of like my best friend as well. And the one or two people that I do with, so I can practice. But if you don't have anyone in your life that you can practice that energy with, of reciprocity, right, in your life, then start sort of doing, not mental movies, but just mental movies, as though you're doing role playing. What would it feel like to speak to someone who is on your level, to speak to someone who reciprocates, who doesn't play a game, who is empathic, who understands where you're coming from, who's loving and supportive and kind and all the things that you're looking for. What would it feel like to, it's sort of just playing that game. And it doesn't need to be religious, but just sort of like, as a child daydreams in the middle of the day of their favorite toy that they get to play with, right? Do that same energy with you when you get a moment's time or rest. Can you just imagine, oh, it would be so amazing to just, go hang out with my best friend, or, hang out with my new lover, and we just do this together. And we would be doing this, and they would say this, and just go into this sort of imagining. And you're not doing it in order to manifest, because it's already done. You're doing it because it's putting you in the vibrational state, the vibrational match, energetic match of what you desire. And so you are starting to attract it more to you, because now you're no longer telling the story of, I keep manifesting all these shitty people, right? And so the universe is like, keep sending her or him shitty people, right? Like, now you're focusing on, no, I love all the relationships that I have. It's so wonderful. Even if they don't exist yet, right? Put yourself in that mental state first. And as you do that, I feel like it will start to manifest itself more, versus this, beating the drum of all the crappy relationships that have gone on, right? Yeah. Yeah, no, trust me. We definitely have very similar paths, because I definitely did a lot of that this year, for sure. I definitely did a lot of that, for sure, this year, as terms of like, snipping and cutting ties where ties need to be cut. And it's sort of that stage of like, especially when we talked about, energetic vampires and just people who are not, if you've been in a relationship or in these types of relationships where the person does not see you or honor you as a human being, but they just see you as a tool to get what they need, and you decide to cut those type of people out of your life, you will find that you are alone at some point, right? Like, that's what I found in my own life that happened, right? But when you start to rebuild your life, you'll start to attract more people who are not like those people, who are actually supportive, right? And who are loving and kind, and who are more like who you are, right? And how the energy that you give out to other people, the energy that you pour into people, you'll start to see that other people pour back into you, because you're not focused on all the shitty people that you had to cut off before, right? So, yeah. Okay, cool. For sure. Definitely hit me up. You already know, divinerschool.com/call or divinerschool/align for the actual alignment session. So I think that's all I wanted to share. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to pop them in the comments below. Thank you, Sati, for coming back. Welcome back. It's always wonderful to hear from you. You ask really great questions. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Welcome to September. Sorry, I was MIA for the first week, but I don't really apologize. Honestly, I had to do what I got to do. Got to take care of myself. So I will see you guys next Sunday, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Peace, love, and light. And remember, what you conceive is what you'll receive. What you expect is what you'll get. And however you feel is what will become real for you. So vibrate higher, and I will chat with you guys next time. Peace, love, and light.